Hello, I'm James.
Hi, I'm Jimmy.
And welcome to A Job Done Well,
The podcast that helps you improve your performance and enjoyment at work.
Good evening. Good afternoon. How you doing?
It's getting dark now, isn't it? The evenings are drawing in.
It's very close to that.
Well, good afternoon, James. How are you?
I'm fabulous, thank you very much. What are we talking about today then?
So today, James, we are talking about decision making, the importance of it, and how you can do it really well. Often we have to do this under pressure. We don't always have all the right information and time, but if you can make better decisions, you can get better results and be a better manager overall.
Well, I would argue a lot more. Maybe 80-90% of management is about making decisions, so it's fairly true.
But before to that, James, what have you been up to?
Well, it's not what I've been up to, it's what I'm not going to get up to. So as we record this, it's 3:45 on a December evening, and tonight at 4:00, my youngest daughter is taking her first ever driving lesson.
No.
So if you live in Nottingham, well, you'll be able to see it on the news. Disaster, car crashes, biggest traffic jam in the world. Yeah, so steer clear of the quiet Nottingham streets on a...
Stressful times, man.
Stressful for me, or I'm not having to do with it. We've decided that Mrs. Lawler is a far better driving instructor than Mr. Lawler. It's not good for family relationships.
It's not good for anyone's mental health. Well, good luck.
Yeah, thanks very much. So I'm just sitting here waiting for the bill.
It's worth paying. Whatever it is, just pay it.
How about you? Before we go on, have you got a tissue, mate? It's like, obviously, Jimmy's been to London working. That's a thing we don't like doing very much working, but
London's a cesspool of germs. But yeah, like a lot of people, the flu virus is sweeping the country and it's swept me before it. The other thing that I've been up to this week was one of our dogs was ill and he went to a pet hospital, which I didn't even know was a thing.
A pet hospital? Go on.
Yeah. Now, there's a few things that it's worth pointing out. One, there's no pet ambulance, so you have to take them yourself. Two, when you get to the pet hospital, it is like a proper full-on hospital. It's like a human hospital, but just for pets. And three,
cows and sheep and things like that there as well. Or where is it?
Not that I saw. They might have had, but I didn't see them. And not that many people have cows or sheep as pets, though, in fairness. So I think they're focused on
You were brought up in rural North Yorkshire, mate. It was quite common where I'm from.
I can make many jokes, and bearing in mind that you as my business partner and my life partner are both from Yorkshire, I'm only going to get into that.
Yeah.
But the third thing was there's no NHS for pets. So it costs absolute thousands. It was costing, apart from his treatment, it was costing him £600 a night just to be in hospital.
That's some sort of fancy hotel that is, isn't it?
Wow.
I'm not a pet owner, so I'm a bit callous about this, but that's total write-off territory. It's new for old and all of that.
Honestly, you can tell you're not. There'll be loads of our listeners. Names now, right?
What's the word? Nothing.
Callous bastard.
Callous bastard. That's the one.
Well, that's the one.
All right, let's move on then.
Anyhow, on to decision making. What do we mean by effective decision making, and why is it important?
Well, rather than answering your question, as a good politician, I'm not going to answer that question. I think we should dive into some of the poorer decisions that have been made and the reasons for them, and then that will just give a sense of what good decision making is like.
Yeah.
There's the opposite. All right.
Well, the other thing to hold in our head is that last thing that you said at the start, which is 80 to 90% of your job is about making decisions. Whatever those decisions are, they might be like process decisions, they might be how you treat your staff, how you deal with a disciplinary issue, how you deal with coaching.
Which projects you're going to allocate resources to, where you're going to build a factory, it goes on and on.
It's a daily thing. So hold that in your head and then go on then, James, tell us how decision-making goes wrong.
Yeah.
You're going to have some nice stories for us. You always do.
Now, I'm showing my age with this first one. But so the first thing is just about not thinking about your stakeholders and your customers when you're making it.
Yes.
So a class example of this is Jared Ratner, 1991, I think it was, and the total crap incident. Do you remember that?
I remember it well. It was hilarious, but not all our listeners are that old. So tell us about Mr. Ratner.
Mr. Ratner used to run a very big chain of jewellers called Ratner's, would you believe? And it was a bit like Woolworths. Man, sorry, if you're that age, you won't remember Woolworths either. There was one in every angle.
You've got to update your stories and analogies.
What would be a good one? It's a bit like that shop. What's the shop called where everything's really cheap? Primark, is it? It's a bit like Primark.
Yeah. See, now you're there. It's the Primark of jewellery.
Yeah. It was one on every high street in Ratner's. And Mr. Ratner was a very wealthy man, and he was asked how he could afford to sell his jewellery at such low prices and get the volumes to his shop. To which, without thinking, he made the decision to say, well, it's because it's total crap. I mean, it might have been true, but his customers didn't love it for it, and that is why there is no longer a Ratner's jeweller on every high street in the country. So there you go. Think about your customers. That would be my first one when you're making decisions.
Yeah. So what's the next one?
So another one is groupthink. So there's that old quote, isn't it? When everybody's thinking the same, nobody's thinking. Yeah. But quite often in organisations, we see groupthink, lots of people thinking the same thing or agreeing. And I want to see another one showing me age. I must have been about 9 when this one happened. 1977, the Tenerife airport disaster. Do you remember that one?
I do as well, showing my age as well. But again, for most of our listeners are a lot younger than that. So tell us about the Tenerife air disaster.
So that one, and the reason why we all remember it is there was I think it was a KLM, well, maybe Royal Dutch Airways it was called at the time. But it took off from Tenerife, and it shouldn't have done, and taxied off into an oncoming plane, and 583 people died.
Yeah.
And what was interesting there is the pilot of the Dutch plane was I think he was their chief training officer or something like that. Right. So a very senior guy. And I think it was foggy, and the air traffic controller told him not to take off, but he decided it was perfectly safe and he was taking off. All his crew members agreed with him. So there you get group thinking.
Sorry,
right.
How was that groupthink?
So groupthink being when everybody agrees with the boss and shares his point of view. You see a lot of group thinking going on in the American cabinet at the moment. Yeah.
So that was just, he's the expert, he's saying we should take off, and everyone just says, yeah, we should because you know best without thinking.
Yes, absolutely. And not so much necessarily the expert, but he's the boss and I'm not going to countermand you. So it's that whole people thinking the same or not being prepared to say something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So groupthink's another one. What else have you got?
So the next one, I think, really is people making judgments without enough information, instinctive judgments. Yeah. So here's one. This is one people will relate to, but there was a company called Excite who had the opportunity, probably about 10 of this century,
they were a search engine, weren't they?
Yeah. They had the opportunity to buy Google for £750,000 quid.
£750,000
I would take the £750,000.
We could come together and buy Google if that was what it was worth.
Or get a mortgage. I don't mind. Can I get a loan?
Yeah.
But they didn't buy it. It's just stuff. They were overconfident in their own position. They thought that the whole thing looked too simple. The whole Google search engine was too simple. Didn't think it was a challenge. And apparently their chief executive just said, no, we're not doing that. So instinctive judgment cost Excite quite a lot of money, I think.
So what else we got?
Well, and then the final one, I suppose, the opposite to little information and making instinctive judgments is just having too much information.
Yeah.
And my
favorite example of that?
Yeah, my favorite example of that is, another one people won't know, but 3 Mile Island. So 3 Mile Island was the biggest nuclear accident that ever happened in the United States. They got away very likely. It wasn't quite as full-blown as it might have been, but they had a big nuclear issue in their plant. But when the accident investigators went around and looked at it, one of the key things that they pointed out was he went into this control room where people were deciding what to do, and there were hundreds of alarms going off at the time of the incident, and they had something like 1,900 different pieces of information that they could be looking at. So you go from so much information that you just can't make a decision if you comply to it. So those are my sort of key things to avoid doing. There are probably plenty of others, but that's
but that's a good start. So should we go through those great stories to highlight them, but should we go through those quickly and just say how you can avoid some of those things?
Yeah.
Our podcast is all about helping people, teams and organizations perform better, and enjoy work more.
I go as far as saying that we believe that everyone and every team has the potential to transform their performance by optimizing what they currently do.
So if you'd like to discuss how we can help you transform your performance, then get in touch, or maybe check out our website. We also do speaking events, mentoring, and advice work as well.
Well, fairly simple. The first one.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think. So how do you avoid not listening to your customers?
Wow. There's a good way is, why don't you ask them? It's quite simple, isn't it?
Heaven forbid, yeah. But why don't you ask them? Well, it doesn't happen that often. I worked somewhere for a while for someone. Let's do it like that. But I suggested we did a customer survey, find out what our customers thought of us. And then her response, God bless her, was, oh no, we can't do that. It's far too dangerous. Always really well, yeah. So do you think that was a place that was destined for success?
There is lots of ways of asking them. You can do surveys, and you can look at social media and look at what they're saying, what the sentiment is out there. Go and have a look.
Yeah.
But also, one of the most powerful ones I found was in one organisation, we did focus groups with our customers.
And
sat behind the, and honestly, that changed my view of the work that we were doing. When you hear somebody who's a teacher who's lost her very modest pension and the impacts it's had on her life, you're thinking, whoever told you to invest your hard-earned pension in Costa Rican teak farms is doing wrong.
Yeah.
So go and see it, because you do learn a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I've done that as well. Mine wasn't so deep. It was market research into vegetable burgers, mate. There's more you can do. I mean, you're right, ask them, even if you start thinking about them. Have you heard about the Amazon chair?
What's that?
There's a chair in the Amazon. No, it's not. Well, we laughed. No. So allegedly, Jeff Bezos, he's obviously done something right. I mean, the key thing he does is he looks after his customers. We can only toss about whether he looks after his employees, but he certainly looks after his customers. And then one of the things he used to say was, we'll always have an empty chair in a meeting room when we're making a decision. And that's the chair where the imaginary customer sits. And when we go around making the decision, we'll say, okay, so what does the customer think? Yeah. But it just forces you to think things through. So you don't necessarily have to ask them, but you certainly need to think about them.
Yeah. So the next one was groupthink. How do you avoid groupthink then?
So groupthink really it's when people, how can I put it? When people are trying to hold the group together and make sure there isn't any dissent. Yeah. And that's what causes it. So the easiest thing to do is to appoint a devil's advocate. Now, you might, in fairness, want to rotate the devil's advocate role, but when you're making a big decision, say today, Ben, or whatever your name is, it is your turn to be devil's advocate. We need you to shoot down this decision and point out that everything that's wrong with it.
Was that like a live example of your Ben or whatever your name was? It's like you can never remember people's names, can you? That's what happened to you once, didn't it?
Well, it's true. I was
trying
to think of somebody whose name began with A. I should have gone with Alan, shouldn't I? And then gone with Ben. And then gone with Charles. My point being, you rotate it round, but I couldn't think of them beginning with A.
You pull that one round, James.
Oh, yeah, I like that. There's a whole host of things associated with groupthink. Quite an interesting topic. I think we should do a separate podcast on groupthink, but that's the thing to do. Just get yourself a devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Another one, and it's the same sort of thing, like a good slang term, is red teaming. Yeah.
What's that?
Well, it's a similar sort of thing, but once you've made a decision, bring in a team of experts and get them to challenge it really hard.
We used to do it in a medieval style, didn't we? In one organisation we worked in where we did star chambers to really focus on giving a real hard challenge to some of the projects that we had going on. That worked well.
Yeah, well, it did, but I'm not terribly sure about the historical.
No, the historic connotations were not good. But the principle of how it worked for us.
A bit like Rich Donkey star chambers, but you just get somebody to change.
The next one you talked about was instinctive judgments.
Right. So a very simple one you will have heard of, but it's a pre-mortem, which effectively says this has gone hideously wrong. Name the reasons why it has gone hideously wrong, and it just forces people to think about all the things that are wrong. Yeah. So instead of it instinctive, it just forces people to think about, well, what could go wrong with this decision? And that just widens your thinking. So a simple thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one, this one's deep. I got this one off Google and I was researching. It's the 10-10-10 rule.
So I've used this.
Oh,
I have got.
I thought it was a bit wet, but there you go. But
No, well, it clearly is if I've used it, but I've got it in the front of my notes book.
have you?
Like
Your notes book.
Yeah, so when I'm
Everybody
writing
else has
notes,
a notes book. Why have you got a notes book? Is that
because I take lots of notes. I don't take a single note.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, you're too proper. Let me take a note.
Yeah.
Whereas I take notes
In your notes book. Yeah, go on.
in my notes book where I have lots of notes.
Yeah.
So I like this because it's a good way of thinking and framing stuff, isn't it?
Go on then.
You ask yourself these questions. How would you feel about this decision in 10 minutes?
Yeah.
How would you feel about this decision in 10 months? And how you feel about this decision in 10 years?
Well,
And it just forces you to think in different ways, doesn't it?
go on to the 10 minutes makes me think.
Well, it's about your emotion in the moment, isn't
Yeah,
it?
okay.
And you can see that I'm doing this because of I want to just shout at somebody. And it's that classic, don't press save, don't press send.
Hey.
It's that sort of thing.
10-minute thing before I talk to my daughters. Yeah, go on. There's
Yes.
one. I'll buy that.
And then the 10-month one is it's the kind of relative short-term consequences of your decision. So that gives time for things to play out. And the 10-year one is really long-term. And I think what that often does for me is it just makes me think, I won't even remember this in 10 years. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
I have a row. I want to kill you. I'm going to rant. I'm going to send you abusive email. In 10 years' time, I remember what we fell out about.
Yeah. So it's just.
And that's the point, is all of a sudden you start thinking, oh, so my decision is, how do I deal with this argument I'm having with James? In 10 years, it's not going to be important. And that, it honestly brings you right down in terms of your worry and stress.
So which page in your notes book is this time?
The first one,
Page 1.
just remind me,
Very good.
open me, notes book.
And I think, the key thing here, just it's a bit tragic, one of the things I have done in the past, but it's about forcing yourself to stop and think. So even if you make a decision, yes, no decision, and then you flip a coin, heads being yes and tails being no, and just get that very act of doing that to just force you just to think it through a little bit more. Yeah, do I agree with this? So it is about stopping and thinking. So there you go. Those are ways in which things can go wrong and ways to address them.
Okay.
So the next one, really, maybe the most difficult one, is too much information.
Right.
Because, we love our MI, don't we? Yeah. I think I've said on this podcast before, but I was, for one, glorious moment in my career, I was head of MI for an insurance company. And I used to produce this MI pack for a claims director. And I swear it's about 153 pages long. And each page had 4 different graphs on, and each graph had probably 3 or 4 different pieces of information. And all this just reams of it, right? But we love our information, but it didn't have to because you can plan to it.
Well, I think the other thing I'd add into this is it's not just too much information. It's overthinking information, isn't it? Because you just get caught in analysis paralysis in this often, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you get around that? Well, it's obvious, but it's hard work. So one of the key things is prioritization. Which information do I need? Well, we used to work for a guy who used to say, tell me the 3 most important things. Yeah. He went on to big and bright things, and he used to say, tell me the 3 most important things. But it was almost, forced you to say what are the most important things. There's a lovely one. It's not a lovely, it's a horrible story about Chernobyl. I do like nuclear disasters. This is my second nuclear disaster in one podcast.
I know. You're full of joys of being you, aren't you?
No, I should have been a nuclear scientist. There's a thought way. When Chernobyl went bang, one of the key things was they used to have something, I think it was called the operational reactivity margin, something like that. But effectively, it was how much stopping power is there on this nuclear reactor. The way they got the number, but the way they had to calculate this was they used to have to walk over to a computer which was 50 meters away. And then they used to have to do about 10, 15 minutes worth of computation. And then they used to have to walk back, and that was the number. And it turns out that was one of the most important numbers that would have stopped the explosion if they had it. But then it took 15 minutes to get it, and it was a 100-meter round trek. People didn't get it. So now on the Russian nuclear power stations, so I'm told, not that I've ever been in one, they have a little dial which gives them this instantaneously. So it is about having the most important piece of information there and then. Have I ever I could go on about this. This is one of my favourite topics. Have I ever told you about my boss in the chocolate factory and the dials?
No.
So I was working in the chocolate factory. And in this chocolate factory, you can imagine...
James in the chocolate factory. Yeah. It sounds like a Roald Dahl novel.
There were lots of pipes, obviously. There actually have pipes with water and you have pipes with steam, pipes with chocolate, believe it or not, pipes with caramel, pipes everywhere, right? And on each of those pipes, they would have dials, and all of these are dials for temperature and dials for pressure and dials for flow, how things... Yeah, and the whole thing was just a mass of pipes and dials. And what he got us to do was go around that plant and we painted all of the steam pipes red and all of the water pipes blue and all of the chocolate pipes brown, so you knew exactly which pipe contained what. Yeah. And the other thing he got us to do was take off every dial that we didn't flipping need. And then the ones that we did need, he actually got us to paint a little red chevron on them so we knew when the dial was pointing in, when the arrow was pointing in the wrong way. So it just forced us to strip all of that stuff back. Now, it's effort, right? It's hard work, but it really helps with your making decision makings.
The other thing that I found helps
I was supposed to go to the other thing I found. The way you're supposed to go is, oh, that's a really interesting story, James.
Oh, that was a very interesting story, James. Oh. I'm still reading from the fact that you've got a story that I haven't actually heard.
25 years old. Yeah.
James in the chocolate factory.
I'm surprised I haven't told you that one.
It's all about...
the windmill, the kid's windmill.
The what?
The kid's windmill.
No.
Oh, there's one. I'll save that one for later. Everybody, I should have left that right at the end of the podcast. It could have been like a cliffhanger. James and the children's windmill.
James and the children's windmill sounds like the sort of thing you get locked up for.
Yeah, go on. So the thing that you found really interesting was...
Oh, no. The thing that I found helpful was, again, one of our previous bosses who, when we got into that overthinking and too much information spiral, said to us, at the time we were working for a credit card company, and he said, look, at the end of the day, if we get this wrong, it's not a matter of life or death. And I think that just made us think, actually, you're right. It's not that there's not consequence to your decisions, but it's not like we're landing planes or doing heart surgery or anything like that. But I think sometimes we take things so seriously, we almost treat it like it's a matter of life or death. And then we ask for more and more information. You don't need it.
And on the subject of heart surgery, I've got another story. You can take this one out if you want. I'll tell you it anyway. Right?
I'm going to edit it out because you've got so many fucking stories.
It's a good story. You'll be thinking at the end of this, you'll say, oh, actually, I can't edit that out. We hope you're enjoying and getting value from listening to our podcast.
If you are, please, can you share it online on social media with friends and colleagues?
We appreciate 5-star reviews, and we really do, but any feedback on how we can improve or subject that you'd like us to cover, just drop us a line and get in touch.
This all helps us bring the best quality show to you to ensure that you can improve your performance and enjoyment of work.
Now, if you are, it's an interesting fact to me, if you're watching this on YouTube, did you know we've reached a tipping point on YouTube?
We're going viral, James.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but more people watch our podcast on YouTube than listen to it, which strikes me as a bit bizarre. I've got some sort of George Clooney thing going on. Who knows what it is? But anyway, before you start telling me about my George Clooney looking like you,
I was going to just refer to your drug taking. You got to stop that.
Right. If you are watching this on YouTube, you will see we've had a slight continuity error. In fact, we will notice if you I've had my Christmas haircut. Do you like that? Because when we came to
James has had a haircut. I've changed my clothes. The lighting's changed. Everything's changed.
Because Jimmy, like a clown, managed to pull his cable out. So I kept on talking and we didn't record anything he said.
Back to it. So we talked about all the negative things that can happen. How about turning it to the positive, James? And you have got a model.
I have got a model. So phase 1 is problem definition and data validation. So making sure you've got all the information you need to make a decision.
So getting your shit in order, in other words.
Yeah, nicely put. Phase 2 is once you made a decision, give it a good kicking to challenge the decision. And phase 3 is just think about the risks and the impacts of that decision, and that if it goes wrong, what are you going to do about it? So let me talk through that in some detail.
Unpack your model, James.
I will unpack my model. It's like one of those unboxing videos. And they've got like people watch those, but it's their own. Problem definition and data validation. So possibly the most important thing, I actually made a career out of this, but just ask yourself, what is the problem we are trying to solve, and be really clear about it.
And anyone who has ever worked with you through your long and illustrious career knows you for that saying, what's the problem? You should have that on your gravestone.
Oh, I'm thinking maybe a tattoo.
Yeah, because you're a tattoo kind of guy, aren't you? You're definitely a gravestone kind of guy. I know that for sure.
Drive Mrs. Lawler wild with excitement. What is the problem we are trying to solve? So there you go. That's the first question. Are you just really defined it? Are you clear? Are you going after the root of the problem, or are you just tackling the symptoms? Be really clear on that. Secondly, objectives, right? Are you really clear what the goals are? Are they measurable? Does everybody agree by them? Do we know what good looks like out of this decision?
Yeah.
Third one, external data. So have you got at least one external expert view, or somebody coming in who's going to contradict your initial assumptions? We talked about groupthink and confirmation bias and something like that, but bring somebody in from outside. And then the final one, part of this is your internal data. So is it prioritized and validated? Do you know what the three most important pieces of information are? Just to prevent information overload. So there's the first thing. As United said, get your shits together.
The second phase was challenging the decision.
Yeah, we talked about it briefly. So make sure that you have got a devil's advocate and rotate that role around the team so people don't get a bad reputation for board or be your person. But again, that's the whole group thing. Address that.
Yeah.
Second thing is just think about the sunk cost. Yeah. So if you walked away from this project today, how much money would you lose? That's your sunk cost. But don't let that be an influence on your decision to continue, because that has already gone. Yeah. So it's your sunk cost balancing.
So many organizations I think I've worked for just get caught with that, because it's like throwing good money after bad, but leaders are so reluctant to admit that they're wrong and they've made the wrong decision that they just carry on and don't just accept the sunk cost is gone, move on.
Absolutely. Third bit is the pre-mortem. So just assume that this project has failed spectacularly 6 months from now. If you've worked with me in the past, that's not too difficult to do, right? But just assume it's absolutely gone belly up. But then write down the top 3 reasons why, because I'll just get rid of overconfidence. It'll force you to just think about what could go wrong. And finally, just think about alternatives. Have you seriously analysed at least 2 fundamentally different courses of action? Or is it just variations on your boss's favourite?
And the danger with not having options is you just tend to get into confirmation bias. You just tend to assume and build the case for why your one option is the right option. So yeah, I can see the value in that. And do you want to unpack phase 3 for us?
Phase 3, let's unpack phase 3.
We sound quite like we know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Think about future consequences. Think about Jimmy's notes book. 10, 10, 10.
10 to 10.
Yeah. How are you going to feel about this decision in 10 minutes, 10 months, and 10 years? Is the short-term gain really worth the long-term risk? Yeah. Make sure you've thought about an exit strategy. So if, heaven forbid, your decision goes belly up, have you got a clear, defined trigger point and a process for cutting your losses? And the final thing really is do the Ratner test. Just think to yourself, well, if this decision was printed on the front page of the paper or my mother heard about it, will I be proud or ashamed of it? So there you go. There's my simple checklist for high-stakes decision making.
High-stakes decision making sounds very good. I would add one final bit to that, which is a very simple bit of advice for me. I think that we often get caught wanting to always be right and wanting to make the perfect decision. It doesn't exist. So I think that making a decision and then driving some action, that's where you start to learn. That's where you start to understand, are you right or wrong? And you can course correct. So my advice would be make the decision and learn from it.
Absolutely. Much better to do something small and learn from it than try and run perfection. I once went to Toronto. It's a tough old life, corporate life, isn't it? I went to Toronto and we landed at Toronto Airport, had to get a train into town, roll up at Toronto Central Station. And it was about 3:00 in the morning UK time. And we were going all day. We were absolutely bushed. And there were 3 of us, and we just got into a massive row about which way it was to the hotel. we'd all got our phones out, we'd all got Google Maps, we'd all got a little blue dot going, and everyone's arguing about it's this way, it's that way, it's the other way. What we eventually did is started walking, and within about 2 minutes of walking, the blue dot had moved, and we realised we were going in the right direction.
Exactly. Progress, not perfection. So we have talked about the fact that the large portion of any manager's job is about making decisions. You told us some fantastic stories, James, about all of the things that can go wrong in decision making. You thoroughly depressed us with your many tales of disasters, but then unveiled James Lawther's patented checklist for high stakes decision making.
High stakes.
We talked about your 3 phases.
Absolutely.
Which are?
Problem definition and data validation. Get your shit straight. Challenge the decision. Have some alternatives, don't be built. And number 3, risk and impact assessment. Knowing full well it is going to go wrong. What are you going to do when that happens?
Well, hopefully everyone's enjoyed this episode on decision making. And this is the last episode of the year, so we should just say a thank you to everyone for all your support throughout the year. And we hope that you and your families have a fantastic Christmas and New Year, and we'll see you back for some more exciting things to help you improve your enjoyment and performance of work somewhere in January.
Super. Happy Christmas.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
We cover a whole host of topics on this podcast, from purpose to corporate jargon, but always focused on one thing: getting the job done well. Easier said than done. So if you've got unhappy customers or employees, bosses or regulators breathing down your neck, if your backlogs are out of control and your costs are spiraling, and that big IT transformation project that you've been promised just keeps failing to deliver, we can help. If you need to improve your performance, your team's performance, or your organization's, get in touch at jimmy@ajobdonewell.com
or James@ajobdonewell.com.